It began on a dew-soaked morning, the kind where the light filters through the trees like melted gold, and the air hangs heavy with promise. Along a winding country road, where the grass grows tall and wildflowers sway in a gentle summer breeze, a tiny figure cowered at the side of a battered wooden fence. Her fur, matted with mud and hunger, barely hinted at the gentle shade of caramel beneath. Her eyes, wide with confusion and fear, tracked every sound, each passing bird, each distant car, as though the world itself might swallow her whole. She was trembling, abandoned in a world too big, too cold, too cruel for such a small soul.
For days, no one saw her. At least, no one who stopped. Most were moving fast, caught up in their routines, eyes fixed on the road as life marched on. But that morning, the world shifted with a single quiet miracle. Hannah, a veterinary nurse, chose that forgotten road for her run, lacing up her sneakers with no knowledge of the fate awaiting her just a mile from her doorstep. As Hannah jogged, her thoughts drifted, appointments at work, errands to run, the to-do list growing longer by the day. Then quite suddenly, she stopped. Something she could not explain drew her gaze to the fence line. There, trembling, was the puppy. A bag of bones, but still, she raised her head hopefully at the sight of a human. The instinct to run, to keep her distance, flickered in the puppy's eyes. Yet hunger and longing won out. When Hannah knelt and whispered, "Hey, sweetheart, it's okay," the puppy mustered the courage to take a shaky step forward. Hannah pulled a protein bar from her pocket, breaking off a piece. The puppy approached, her steps slow and uncertain, nose twitching at the unfamiliar scent, belly rumbling more loudly than her fear. With a hungry leap of faith, she accepted the morsel from Hannah's outstretched hand. It was the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. Recognizing the peril of leaving the puppy there, Hannah wrapped her running jacket gently around the small, shivering body. The puppy gave in to the warmth, snuggling close as though she already knew somehow that she was safe. As they walked home together, Hannah whispered soft words of comfort. Not for a moment did she let go. At her modest cottage, Hannah fashioned a soft bed of blankets, placed a bowl of cool water upon the kitchen floor, and scavenged what dog food she could. At first, the puppy approached the meal with hesitance, peering up with those soulful brown eyes, as if seeking permission. Only when Hannah sat beside her, offering gentle encouragement, did she eat. Cautiously at first, then with a mounting desperation that spoke of too many days without sustenance. Hannah named her Hope. It seemed fitting, for Hope had found her, just as much as she had found Hope. The puppy's body told the story of her ordeal, patches of fur missing, ribs prominent beneath her skin, ears crusted with dirt. But there was a gentle sweetness in her gaze, a pleading for kindness the world had yet to show her. Hannah got to work, gently cleaning her wounds and brushing away the dust of abandonment. She hummed softly as she worked, and Hope, drowsy from a full belly, surrendered in grateful trust. But Hope's rescue was only beginning. Over the next days, Hannah called upon her friends, the local animal shelter, and the community vet. Together, they pieced together the puppy's history, a tale still largely a mystery. No microchip, no collar, no identification. Lost or discarded, her past would remain a silent, painful gap in the narrative. Yet with every tick of the clock, Hope began to change. She slept deeply that first night, curled in a cocoon of blankets, and awoke with tentative optimism. She flinched at loud noises, hesitated when a hand came too close. But she learned, slowly, that love could be gentle and hands could offer kindness. Hannah made space for patience, knowing healing would take time. She offered treats for every brave step, a cautious sniff, a tentative tail wag, a sleepy lick upon her hand. Mornings were filled with soft walks through the garden, Hope's steps uncertain at first, but growing steadier with every new day. There were moments of regression, a sudden bark or nervous whimper at the sound of thunder. But Hannah never scolded, only offered reassurance.
The neighborhood, once unaware, became captivated by the story whispered along fences and exchanged across porches. Children drew pictures of the puppy and left cans of food on Hannah's doorstep. Elderly neighbors, inspired by Hope's journey, offered old blankets and toys their own beloved pets had outgrown. The rescue became a community's quiet rally, a reason to believe in small acts of kindness. Soon, the first trip to the veterinarian came due. Hope's legs shook as Hannah lifted her into the car, and for a moment it seemed that fear might win. But Hannah's steady voice, the warmth of the familiar jacket, gave her courage to press on. The vet, Dr. Singh, greeted them with a gentle smile, removing her stethoscope so as not to frighten the puppy. Hours later, the diagnosis came back. Hope was undernourished and weak, but otherwise miraculously unharmed. Given love, food, and time, she would recover. With every visit, Hope grew stronger. Her fur returned soft and glossy under Hannah's careful tending. Her eyes lost their haunted look. She rediscovered the joy of play. A knotted rope became her favorite treasure, a rubber ball source of endless fascination. For the first time in her young life, she ran with true abandon across Hannah's garden, sunbeams catching upon her golden coat, a blur of happiness unleashed. Yet it was the milestones, the small victories that marked Hope's true rescue. The day she dared to rest her head against Hannah's knee, sighing with contentment. The first time she barked not out of fear but in exuberant greeting. The moment she learned a game of fetch, returning again and again for the joy of Hannah's laughter. As summer faded into autumn, the bond between Hannah and Hope became unbreakable. Their lives wove together, the puppy's affection a salve for the loneliness Hannah had sometimes felt in her quiet cottage. In rescuing Hope, Hannah herself discovered renewed purpose, a reason to rise and greet each day, eager to meet the world together. Still, the scars of Hope's abandonment sometimes surfaced. She startled at strangers and cowered when voices rose in argument nearby. Hannah never forced her, always letting the puppy go at her own pace. Each setback was met with patience and encouragement. And then, one golden afternoon, a miracle of a different kind occurred. Hope, now stronger and more confident, was chasing a butterfly across the grass when a car drew near. Instinctively, she tensed, ready to bolt, but Hannah waited, steady, confident, her presence an anchor. The car slowed, a neighbor stepped out, and to everyone's surprise, Hope took a cautious step forward. She sniffed the offered hand, tail wagging with tentative optimism. Hope had begun to trust not just one human, but the promise of many. From then on, Hope was no longer just Hannah's miracle. She became a fixture in the neighborhood, a regular at the park, a companion to the elderly, the official greeter at block parties. Children gathered to toss her tennis balls while she spun with unrestrained delight. Her transformation became legend. She was living proof that the smallest act of kindness, one human kneeling to offer food, one gentle word, could spark impossible hope. But the story did not end there, for miracles invite miracles in return. Inspired by Hope's journey, Hannah began volunteering at the local animal shelter. She told Hope's story to every child who entered, to every family searching for their own companion. She spoke of patience, of kindness, of the quiet courage required to heal wounds no one could see. Hope sat beside her, a silent testament to resilience. It was through this work that more dogs found homes. Older hounds, limping strays, nervous puppies, all benefited from the lesson Hope had taught. Hannah's home became a foster haven. Sometimes Hope shared her bed with a trembling newcomer, offering comfort as only another rescue can. They formed a makeshift family bound not by blood, but by compassion and second chances. On the first anniversary of their meeting, Hannah threw a small garden party. Friends and neighbors gathered, bearing gifts and smiles, stories and laughter. A banner read simply, "Hope finds a home." Amid the music and sunshine, Hope barked joyously, bounding through the crowd, pausing to lick the face of an elderly neighbor, nosing up to a toddler with gentle curiosity. She was celebrated not as a survivor, but as a symbol, a reminder that love, freely given, can change the course of a life. As dusk settled and stars began to glimmer above, Hannah sat on the porch steps, Hope curled at her feet. She reflected on how much change a year could bring, the quiet cottage now alive with laughter and friendship, her own heart expanded by the lesson of one resilient puppy. And somewhere, deep beneath the layers of new trust, Hope remembered those early days, the hunger, the fear, the ache of abandonment. Yet when she looked up at Hannah under cover of twilight and gently swaying fireflies, she knew she would never be alone again. In the years that followed, Hope's story traveled far beyond their small town. Hannah began sharing their journey online, writing compassionate posts that inspired others to adopt, to foster, to see not just the sadness of abandoned animals, but their potential for transformation. People from distant cities sent letters of encouragement. Donations poured in for the shelter. New volunteers signed up every month. Hope had sparked not just a local miracle, but a wave of empathy that touched countless lives. The lesson of Hope's rescue lingered long after. For every soul feeling discarded, there is someone willing to kneel down, hold out a hand, and say, "You are not forgotten, you are worthy of love." Every act of kindness, no matter how small, can become the miracle that saves a life, that restores the heart, that brings hope where darkness once reigned. And so, wherever the world feels cold and indifferent, remember the little abandoned puppy at the fence, the way a single choice, a moment of compassion, can transform everything. Hope's miracle was not just the rescue itself, but the cascade of love, healing, and community it inspired. For in saving her, Hannah and everyone who followed learned that true rescue is not a single act, but an enduring promise. To stand beside the lost and frightened, to offer comfort and patience, to never give up on what even the world has forgotten, to believe that hope, in its many forms, will always find a way. The heartwarming story of Hope's miracle rescue is not only the tale of an abandoned puppy, but a living reminder that together we can create a world where no one suffers alone, and every soul, against all odds, is given the chance to heal and to thrive.